This is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So we're going to start by showing off the campaign, then we'll be going into the multiplayer, and finally the zombies, as this is a full, cohesive look at this really large-scale package that was Black Ops 2. So when it comes to the technology here, what are we getting? It's 720p, which is actually a bit of a bump up from previous Call of Duty titles, but it's not like full, it's like 880 by 720p, 60 FPS, auto HDR, and it does have like kind of dynamic elements in the picture that actually do lead way for a pretty good visual quality. I mean, it's still pretty jaggedy around the edges and it hasn't like aged the best, but still for its time actually quite an impressive visual offering. So the campaign follows, interestingly, two perspectives, and it does so quite well. You've got the past, which continues the events of the first Black Ops with Mason, and then you've got the future, which is getting pretty close to the present time, which is hilarious, in 2025, where you are playing as like Mason's kid, which I believe is David. And yeah, you're dealing with this sort of changing times, if that makes sense. Like, you've got to see what set up the events of the future slash present, and then you're kind of dealing with the situation of like drones and other powerful things. And yeah, it's quite an interesting, I guess you would say, take on Call of Duty, because this is when they started to do like more futuristic stuff. It was still pretty firmly grounded, if that makes sense. Like, it was still boots on the ground. It wasn't like too ridiculously silly, and it did build on the legacy of like World at War that went into Black Ops, and then went into Black Ops 2, and then obviously things got a little bit more ridiculous afterwards, but this one still was relatively realistic and relatively leaned on futuristic concepts. And I think like a lot of the stuff in here actually is kind of decently on par with the tech we actually have now, as interesting as that sounds. I mean, I don't think necessarily the downtown area of these cities looks quite as cool as it does in this game, but you know, it is pretty neat, and it's got some big voice actors in this one, and the campaign did have some interesting elements that really do help paint the picture of like why the primary like villain is, you know, why he does what he does. A lot of it makes sense, and you just get to see this huge time frame that essentially, you know, other Call of Duty games don't do. Usually Call of Duty games are very linear and set in the particular like era. You know, you might get like a flashback level here or there. You know, we saw that with Call of Duty 4, but this one really does give you back and forth for like a large scale cast kind of understanding. Was that a teammate? The civilians die, it happens. But yeah, it's really quite an interesting take on the series. And you also, before you jump into your different campaign levels, you get to set up classes, which is really interesting, because you get to create like a loadout that you want for battling, which I think is a little more common in some of the later campaigns for Call of Duty stuff, especially like Black Ops. But I think at the time it was actually pretty fresh that you were able to do that kind of thing, because usually you just you know, you jump in, you got what you got, and you're just kind of doing this progressive story. But yeah, I really did like the narrative in this one. It was really interesting, and pretty large sense of scale too was a big thing. I was, what? Oh, come on. You gotta be kidding me. I got blown up by an explosive vehicle? Oh, that is embarrassing. It's not my... That is definitely not my fault. We got... Okay. Alrighty. What? What is happening? Okay, I'm getting blown up by something. I guess I'm supposed to maybe just go right for the vehicles. Anyways, the different difficulty settings and stuff are present. You're able to... What is... I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. I'm genuinely confused as to why I keep, like, exploding like I do. Wow, okay, I think it's the rockets up there. I am so confused. That is an enemy, I guess. All right, we're good. We're good, guys. Let me try to get up back on task here a little bit. So, yeah, the split narrative is pretty cool. Setting up your classes, doing the different difficulty stuff. There might be some fun little surprises and twists along the way. They definitely were doing some interesting things in this one in terms of scale. I always remember that being a big part of this particular entry, was just like the scale of it for the levels felt large, with lots of like troops and stuff in the backdrop. It felt like a larger theater of war, whether you were like, you know, in the past or kind of in the future present storyline. I say present because like the narrative, like when the story is taking place, is in the future for us, but like for the characters it is the present, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get across in that perspective. But yeah, just these crazy set pieces, huge over the top moments. I mean, it's Call of Duty, so it all makes sense that they've got stuff like this. But yeah, it was interesting because like the first Black Ops to me was really focused on more of like an intimate, tighter storytelling, more covert, and you get some of that in this one, but they did also really quite up the stakes, particularly with what your goals are and what you're doing and how the combat sort of flows. It was really, really quite interesting. Ooh, we got a bit of a oof. But I do kind of miss some of the narrative beats of the first Black Ops a little bit as well, because that one was so like mystery of the numbers, and like you do get some cool context as well. You get to see how some of the characters have kind of like aged and changed, which is neat. Can we just skip this and get back into the action? There we go. You know, you gotta create that narrative suspense of everything going haywire. Good job, guys.
We got RPGs on the rooftops all around. I'm trying to... Come on! Damn it! Anderson! God, son of a bitch! I'm hit!
Yeah, they really do a good job of, like, narrative-type setups with just crazy things going on. How do we blow that up? Okay, it's gone already. I guess drones are, kind of no big deal for that, dude. Yeah, the set pieces for this really are wild. Oh, we gotta free our little drone. That's the Dragonfire. I have this thing in real life, and I've used it in the multiplayer too. It shreds people with like bullets, but it's not too effective, and it like blows up pretty easily. You're supposed to go destroy that giant, scary drone thing that's coming towards us. Hot dogs, ice cold drinks. This is the perfect time for this kind of thing. Hold to refill my ammo. Okay, I can also, like, shoot this, although I'd rather have the Type 25 here. Or, sorry, this is like the Type 55 because it's like a futuristic thing. Okay, maybe I just gotta blow it up with the RPGs so we can get this done. Anyways, the sense of scale and everything in this campaign was really, really cool. It was intense. You understood the motivation of your, like, foe, because usually in Call of Duty you just kind of, like, you know, there's, like, a big bad guy that's, you know, you don't really get a lot of context usually into them, but this one did kind of really push for that, even with some cool flashback-type sequences that I think worked pretty well. And then, yeah, this combination of, like, covert elite, military, and, like, regular police was really intriguing, too. So, kind of a pretty cool campaign. I shouldn't have died there. I should have stayed back for a second to make that look more cinematic. But, pretty cool campaign. I think it offered a lot in the franchise. I think it was, you know, definitely an intriguing entry and something a lot of people quite like, and I think upon pretty fondly. even though it did move a little bit away from the more covert stuff, but I think tonally in that it was pretty cool. Like, the whole set pieces in this downtown battle is just absolutely excellent. Let's go to multiplayer. This is the multiplayer portion of the game. We're diving in and showing a bit of it off so you get an idea of it and enjoy either the nostalgia or maybe see it for the first time. So Black Ops 2 multiplayer is a lot smoother in comparison to Black Ops 1, which is a bit more like gritty and old school weapons. This is, you know, futuristic 2025 type gear with a little bit of old things thrown into the mix. And yeah, it's quite interesting. This one tends to be the most popular of the vintage Call of Duty games in regards to having a healthy player base. Now, alongside this, and I haven't felt the need to really give this warning in any of the other, you know, kind of Call of Duty games, but this one does suffer for the most people modding, hacking, cheating. So it's rampant. I don't know what it is about this particular Call of Duty that seems to bring out the worst of the player base, but this one is most certainly that game. Like, I literally had to do 6 or 7 matches before this to get like a lobby that was kind of, it seems like people aren't really cheating, but I don't know, we'll see what happens. So yeah, it's kind of pretty blatant in this one, and as I said, I don't know what it is about this one, but this one just seems to bring out like the worst of folks. So you are you know, kind of warned, and the best thing you could do is just like quit the lobby and find another one. And it is nice that this one is getting a little bit more popular too recently, so that it's harder to run into other people. I don't know what it is about today where I'm getting so lucky that I'm running into that type of clientele, but yeah, it is kind of intriguing that that is the case, because we're actually able to play like domination stuff now. Usually it's always like team deathmatch and like search and destroy, so it is nice to have, you know, some more other game modes and traditional type lobbies, so that's really great. This game did focus on mostly like refining the gameplay experience of the previous Black Ops game. Like, you know, as I was saying, it's kind of a lot smoother for guns and combat. You know, they evolved the creating classes system a little bit with some more, I guess you would say, fun toys of the time, some crazier weaponry. Everything was still firmly, you know, boots on the ground, which was nice, and then things got a little wackier after this point. You know, the similar prestige system. There wasn't necessarily a lot of, like, wild innovations that I can think of in particular for this one, in regards to, like, you know, what they did new-wise, like, what kind of marks this left on the franchise. Because it was mostly, like, you know, the custom imagery for emblems and stuff came back. You know, there was all this, like, kind of custom gun skins. I guess this was one of those ones where they did start introducing the microtransaction guns, but the guns were actually like microtransactions. Like, I think this gun skin was like a under $2 like Canadian, even back in the day and stuff. So, like, you know, and you got like the gun skins for all the guns, and so this is when the microtransactions kind of started, I guess, but like they weren't really like they are today, which are pretty ridiculous and overpriced, honestly. But like, yeah, it's kind of neat that this was, you know, what they had set up for the time. It works pretty effectively. I know for a lot of people, this is like one of the favorites. See, I was trying to shoot past that, but the guy in front made me pull, like, it kind of like auto-aimed and pulled over my gun to shoot at that person. That drives me crazy. So I'm trying to shoot the guys at the top to kind of kill them because they've got such good positional ground. Anyways, yeah, I digress. The game modes were fun. A lot of people really seem to love this one. I find the quick scoping really annoying in this particular title. Lots and lots of people live by it, but you know, it was just kind of like a really refined Call of Duty that I think came out at a time where a lot of people were like, you know, kind of getting into the franchise and stuff, and they just sort of really find this one to be like one of their favorites, if not their favorite. And it's, you know, makes sense, it's cool, I get it. But, yeah, I'm not necessarily thinking of all the wild innovations that this particular entry led, because, you know, usually every Call of Duty game sort of leaves its mark on the overall franchise in regards to, like, new features or new things, but like multiplayer-wise, this really did come across as a bit of a refinement over what had come out prior. So I mean, it works for what it is, but yeah, I don't know. It was cool. It was good multiplayer. Talking about the maps, there's actually like a really good selection of levels in this one. You know, returning maps, older maps, you know, that were brought back and sort of changed and stuff like that. So that was always really quite cool. You know, if you were like a fan of like Black Ops, and I think even I'm trying to think if there's like World of War maps that were brought back. They all have like this slightly futuristic spin on them, which is kind of fun. Like they were creative with the levels, and the levels are very varied actually. There's so many different like places and spots you can kind of see and, you know, go and battle on, which are kind of cool, and you know, the evolution of some like favorites and yeah, all that nice stuff in this one. Really, really well put together. And then there was like, I think there was like a little bit of a competitive focus and also like a bit of a video type focus on stuff. Like you can, you know, do some clip type work in this. It was kind of like the starting point of all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's like, I think there's even like Facebook and like Twitter integration in that too, which was kind of cool. Like you could, you know, do with the clips and sharing and that. So I think we were, well, in general in that time, a lot of like the sharing and social sharing was just kind of really getting kickstarted, and they were still experimenting with how all of that kind of worked and whatnot. Yeah, and then we got some ridiculous reticles. Like obviously I've got the smiley face here, and you know, there was some stuff you could unlock and some stuff you could work towards. Jeez, it's just like, for me, the long-lasting effects of this one are just like so many of these maps just continuously get reused and recycled by like Treyarch. Like they don't even, what was it? For Cold War, they didn't even like change some of the maps from this game. They just literally like copied and pasted them and just kind of like cleaned them up, which is kind of funny. But I mean, if you love the maps, you love the maps, and some of the maps in this game are just really, really quite stellar. But you know, if you play on the same map a bazillion times, you kind of get a little tired of it. At least I do. I don't know if other people feel that way, but yeah, I definitely do get a little tired of the maps for some of these. But you know, we had like, there's like Nuketown of the Future. There's like Raid, which you never ever see the end of. Plaza's actually kind of neat because you don't, you know what I mean? You don't really see it as often. I don't think they brought this one back in other CODs, but I always found this to be kind of intriguing kind of map, like a little bit different setup, and you know, the club feel and stuff. Where's that coming from? Oh, and then like the ridiculous like diamond skins you could work towards. This one really did have like a bit of a kind of almost like a subculture of like Call of Duty players and fandom. That's what I was saying, is like the community on this one are like very particular, and I think that in itself kind of leads way to why there's so many people that like cause problems. Like, you know, some people are adding, I don't know, I guess some might think of it from their perspective as helpful things. Like some of the people will add like expanded FOV, and you know, they'll make it faster and stuff, but it's like, I think a lot of them don't really appreciate that people just want to kind of play the original experience for like nostalgia, and it's like, you know, they kind of want to bend their will, or you know, upon everyone else's and throw it so that you don't have a choice, which is a bit weird, but you know, it is what it is, right? You just kind of along for the ride of the Black Ops 2 experience, especially for multiplayer. But oh, it's fun, aggressive, quick, really ridiculously still competitive to a crazy degree that it's like hard to deal with almost. Oh yeah, crazy drop shotting. Like people really do take this one very seriously. But as I said, it is like the most popular of the older ones. It's one that like seems to always have good attention to it, always have a lot of players, and wow, I am just getting absolutely pelted by people. So I think like if you're going a nostalgia trip, you'll find fun in this. If you're kind of new to it, it's gonna be like a little bit of a learning curve and adjustment, but it's just kind of a smooth, fast-paced, crazy Call of Duty where you're gonna have to keep your wits up, because while you're going positive one moment, the next you can just absolutely get demolished, and then, you know, not to mention if you deal with somebody that's like trying to cause lobby problems, it could be a bit of a pain. But yeah, a lot of people really love what this one has to offer. There's some fun kill streaks, some fun weapons, crazy moments, over-the-top action. So this is the zombies of the game, which was a refinement of zombies from, well, Black Ops 1, and an increased level of complexity beyond that original zombies experience. A lot of people really love the zombies. I do personally feel that the zombies experiences of Call of Duty kind of peaked with Black Ops 1. But yeah, this does offer a lot of more interesting things. For me, the biggest change up was like the increase in complexity was a bit wild. Like you literally were having to do story type content. Oh, that's embarrassing. You were having to do like story-based content in the zombies in order to actually like be able to do anything or actually get anywhere. I mean, you could traditionally survive like back in the day, but it was definitely less of a particular focus within this entry. And I love how they always do that at like the worst and inopportune times. Get that sort of thing going. So yeah, this one did bring in a lot of new things for zombies. The scale of the maps were massively increased. Why did I pick this one? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Maybe I have the chance to go far with the team and actually get some of the achievements I'm missing. Who's to say? You did have one really cool map that rarely anybody plays because, well, basically, like, no one got it. I think it was like a pre-order thing, and that was Nuketown Zombies, which I think is the most traditional of the zombies offerings within this game. The other ones are a lot less focused on just surviving, where the Nuketown is literally just about survival. What happened there? Okay, that was a bit weird. I just want to very clearly say that that was not my fault. That was Lank. Okay, I want to. That one doesn't count. That down does not count. Yeah, oh, and the zombie blood, which makes you move around weird. But yeah, as I was saying, Nuketown Zombies is actually such a perfect traditional zombies level. I loved it. Then you've got like the Green Run, which is like this huge, ridiculous map with like fog, and there's like a bus you gotta deal with. And then you're seeing on the left there, this game did focus on having essentially like a part system where you could build things. You know, you could create certain objects that could like help you in some matches and scenarios. So that was interesting, but again, a level of like the complexity increase, which I was kind of like, huh, that's a lot. You know, the musical Easter eggs and stuff continued. It was a lot of like the past, but there was just like a lot more like noise and a lot more things you had to actually do to be like decently successful in the zombies. And to me, that made it a little harder to deal with in not necessarily like the best of ways, but it is really well loved. It is a lot smoother with zombies, and there's like a lot more that you have to like get done and do, and you know, there's all these different weapons and new things to gather and objects to find in maps to get certain paths completed, and then you've got all these fun like extra new traps, and then you've got the crazy new, well, like I guess you'd say mystery box type weapons. Oh geez, but like power-ups returned. It was well, that was unsettling. It was kind of cool from the perspective of like, I think, yeah, somebody's cheating in this, which is kind of funny, but I'm not gonna mind. I'll enjoy the superpowered stuff. So I think you could have a lot of fun doing the zombies, but most of it's a lot of the DLC. Like the Green Run was kind of cool because it's the main map you get, and you can do the bus depot stuff. But I really never liked the bus locations and that. I always found that to be a bit of a pain. And then there was the whole different modes. So there was like survival modes within the Green Run, and you know, which were kind of cool, like split off parts of the map that you would try to survive on, see how long you could go. And then there was grief mode, where it was like two teams were competing to see who could last the longest. I've had some brutally long matches of that, which were kind of entertaining. And then moving onwards, like these guys just straight up cheating here, which is kind of funny, but maybe I can finally get some achievements in this one. Which would be good for me, I guess you would say. But I wanted to buy that other gun anyways. Maps-wise, let's keep talking about the map. So Grief, yeah, you're kind of fighting two teams, kind of cool. Then we had this sort of hotel map. I think it was like Die Rise. I hated that level so much. It was like this really awkward tight thing with all these like verticality was the thing. That one was really hard to deal with. Then there was Mob of the Dead was really, really cool. It was like an Alcatraz set map where you had to help these guys escape Alcatraz. And there was like this whole kind of like spinning around and, you know, time going over and over again, which was intriguing, you know. I did find that kind of to be an intriguing change. I don't like that they just keep reusing that over and over again, if that makes sense. Like it does seem like they just keep reusing that map in future CODs, which is slightly annoying. Because, you know, like for zombies, it seems so like cut and paste these days, which is sad. We got the ray gun there. And new weapons, lots of new perks, you know, for the modern time, all this extra stuff. This one's got these ridiculous robots. This is Origin, so this is like a World War bunker, and it kind of like wrapped up the zombies campaign for this, or story for this game, you know, with the characters and playing around with time and whatnot, which is like a little strange. My favorite map for this one was Buried, which is like an old western town underground, which was really, really, the vibes on that one are really, really spectacular and something special. I genuinely loved what that one had to offer. I thought that was like so cool that we were able to, like, I don't know, just kind of go to this like really neat place, and it's got all these like haunting stuff, and yeah, it was really, really different. Like, this map is kind of neat because it's large, but this map's really hard because you've got these giant robots, and then you've got like mechanical robots. Like the big robots step on you, and then the mechanical robots are like causing all kinds of problems on the map. Like they're like kind of like BioShock Big Daddies that would appear occasionally. Not the most fun of enemies to deal with. See, these guys are doing the musical parts and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like blasting the zombies. This would have been a good one for the tank ride achievement, which is kind of funny. But yeah, that was kind of the zombies for this game. Like, I don't... Like, it's good, you know, but I never quite found it to be at the level of, like, Black Ops 1 zombies. Even though it did do things like, you know, banking your money, and it did do all these, like, zombie innovations. But I did, you know, kind of appreciate the simplicity of, like... The guy got rid of my ray gun. Okay, well that sucks. I did appreciate the simplicity of what the original one was, but, you know, kind of cool the same. Lots of good memories for people on this. I think a lot of people had fun in zombies. I guess the cheating is kind of good because it's sort of like showing you all of the different perks and weapons and weird stuff that can happen in this one, so I guess you might find that kind of interesting. Pack-a-Punch came back, obviously, with some more crazier things. You know, there was always lots of zombies to shoot, and if you're not familiar with zombies, the waves, I guess I should have started with that, the waves kind of go on, and you're always having to destroy more and more zombies. It gets more and more difficult until eventually you get worn down, everybody dies, everybody loses, and that's the end of the match. So that's kind of how zombies is. But this one, it was a lot more like, do this story type thing in order to unlock this thing and do this stuff, so... definitely a little different from the other stuff, but fun, and, you know, I think for a lot of people quite rewarding, and there's lots of things you can do in this, and the zombies is pretty well polished. Have you ever played Nuketown Zombies? Nuketown Zombies really, really is just a great map. Very, very creative and very well done. So yeah, Black Ops as an overall package. Black Ops 2. You get that really intensive multiplayer setup. You get, you know, well, yeah, multiplayer setup with lots of maps, lots of things going on. A campaign that's like bridging multiple eras of like, you know, Black Ops family action and drama. And then the zombies, which was bigger and larger and filled with weird moments of surprise, challenge, depth, action, and kind of insanity, and apparently lots of people cheating across the game on this one, so you're just sort of along for the ride, and you just, I don't know, it is what it is. Blasting, shoot stuff, Call of Duty.